Hello, and welcome to Alchemy Mindset. I'm your host, Anna Hasty, business mindset coach for women and a sound healer. If you are ready to become the most aligned, magnetic, and confident businesswoman you are worthy and deserving of being, then this show is for you. This is where I share everything from mindset, energy, and spirituality, and how to embody your future self in business and life. Sprinkle that with deeply relaxing sound healings and meditations, and you have the Alchemy Mindset podcast. Hit subscribe so you always get the latest episode. Now let's begin. Hello and welcome to this episode of Alchemy Mindset with Anna Hasty. I am sharing with you today an inspiring story of another mama who found that climbing the corporate ladder was not going to fulfill her needs of being a present mum to her daughters, nor meet her ultimate dream life that she and her husband had been working really hard to create and have. Let me introduce to you Evelyn Lopez Delon, the co-founder of SaaS Video Marketing and the host of Legacy Building Mamas podcast. Evelyn's committed to empowering women to redefine success on their own terms, and she focuses on creating a supportive community where mumpreneurs can share wisdom, inspire confidence, achieve fulfillment, and celebrate the transformative power of community. In this episode, Evelyn shares with me how she literally manifested her dream redundancy from her corporate job and the clients for the business she is building with her husband at SaaS Video Marketing. Evelyn agrees that she was a corporate climber and had the vision that her work would be the one that would support the household and be the breadwinner overall. But what she realized was that time away from her kids wasn't fulfilling her needs as a mum, and nor was she really fully present or enjoying the work she was doing in her corporate job. She never had that idea or inspiration to run a business or to become an entrepreneur, but events happened that inspired her and made her realize, what are my values, what are my goals, and what is really important for me in life? She shares all of this in this really, really fun and inspiring episode. We circle around the importance of knowing what your passion and legacy is when building and running your business, and that you don't actually necessarily need to have a corporate background to run a business, but coming back to your why and your purpose is the key part. She also shares her hot tip for any woman running a business and also mixing or juggling or combining mama life with it too. Now, I'm going to say this. This isn't the only time Evelyn will ever appear on this podcast. We have already set the date that for January 2026, she will be back to tell us what has happened between now and then. And I can't wait for her to come back on the show on that date. But for now, enjoy this episode where Evelyn shares her experience from leaving corporate, building a business to become a legacy building mama. And she also has a really awesome offer for you at the end. So hang in there, dear listener. Wait to the end. I know you're going to love this episode and you'll get so much value, insights, and just inspiration, and knowing that there's another mama out there working, building a business, building a legacy so that she can not only have that dream lifestyle, but be so present and with her kids and her husband too. So enjoy this episode. Let me know what your thoughts and shares and takeaways are. And without further ado, let's begin. Welcome, Evelyn. Welcome to the Alchemy Mindset podcast. I am so excited to have you on the show today, to have such a wonderful, fun-filled, and inspiring conversation. Welcome.
Hello, Anna. Thank you so much. I am so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, pleasure. Honestly, pleasure. I have been following your journey on Instagram, and recently you shared how it just happened. Your manifestation happened where you left corporate life and you are suddenly in that mix and in that world of working full time for yourself, Now tell me, before we get into like exactly what you do, and you can share that as we continue this conversation, share away, share all the things, but tell me what happened in this moment when you went, you know what, one day I'm not going to be here in my corporate job role, in my corporate life, and I'm leaving this to start my own business, and I'm leaving this to work full time for myself. Like what happened then?
Oh, well, absolutely. I love that question, first of all, because I love talking a little bit about, I guess, well, I'd like to start off by sharing a bit about me before I even became a mum, because being an entrepreneur hasn't been something that I've desired my whole life. Instead, before I was a mum, I was very free spirited, dedicated to climbing the corporate ladder, and worked hard for achieving a comfortable six-figure salary that funded my dream lifestyle. This included financial freedom, traveling to as many places as I could, and a focus on internal happiness. I was just chasing my happiness, which actually led me to finding my soulmate. And now we have two beautiful daughters. So that's where it sort of started. So since having my first daughter, my perspective on life shifted with a new direction and purpose, I guess. All of a sudden, I just didn't fit that corporate mold that I worked so hard for. I was in a place of having to choose my family or my career. And it was a tough spot to be in, to be honest. And it just didn't feel right. And because I had chased always my true inner happiness and I worked so hard to get there even before having kids, I was more tuned in to the fact that just it didn't feel right. And this is where I guess my purpose and drive to make a change sort of started. And this was sort of probably my first realization out of many. And I'm sure we'll talk about the many, but I wanted to talk about the first realization that sort of led me to why the change. It was actually when my firstborn faced health issues within her first 2 years. And that meant a lot of hospital visits and doctor appointments. And it was really hard to balance work and being there for my family. I felt guilty.
And like, I can only imagine, like, in that moment, you're like, wow, I'm a mum, and this is not what I really had planned. And I have to devote my attention and my time to taking care of my daughter. And yet at the same time, still meet the obligations and commitments that I have through work and other things like that. Like that would really have been quite a stressful time, I can imagine.
Yeah, definitely. And also, it's the aspirations that I always sort of felt that I needed to feel fulfilled, I guess, and achievement. But at the same time, I just felt guilty for both. I felt the mum guilt and I felt the work guilt as well, like having my co-workers and my colleagues having to cover my work. And I was constantly worried about my daughter and I was nor here nor there. And then I was pregnant with my second child. And that's when I knew I needed to change. I realized that my true values were family, authenticity, and just being true to myself, which then led to my corporate job just not fitting these values anymore. And I guess the second part of that is like my childhood experiences also played a significant role in this transformation of mine, like losing my mum at 4 years old and witnessing my dad struggle to raise three kids. And, he was working multiple jobs. So I didn't have those present parents. My dad was just surviving. And I realized that I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to just work in a corporate job to survive and to not be there for my kids, because I know how much that affected me growing up. And I decided I wanted to parent differently, which meant, being involved in their life, but also financially free. So I guess that's where it sort of started off when I was on maternity leave with my husband and I decided to start a business that aligned with our values of purpose, freedom, and flexibility. And that led to us co-founding SaaS Video Marketing.
Yeah, wow. So I love it that you just said that you built this first business, SaaS Video Marketing, on these values. So do you want to just explain a little bit more what they are? Like you've just highlighted them, but just what that actually means and looks like for you, and why building the business based on your values first rather than like intertwining them later or rejigging the business to suit those things. Why did that come first?
A couple of reasons. So firstly, because I worked so much on myself before even meeting my husband, I knew what it is to tune into your own body to the surroundings to the energy around you. So that's one thing that I think I worked really, really hard for before even getting to a point of having kids and meeting my husband. And then meeting my husband was he had always been an entrepreneur at heart. And he wanted that life and that dream of, having this life of, freedom and all that sort of stuff that business would give him. However, he tried it many times. We've been together for 6 years before having kids, right? So I'd seen him try over and over again, and we would go traveling together and he'd have his laptop with him. And I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand that whole, why do you want to be an entrepreneur? Like, I work 9 to 5 and look at me. I'm like, I get paid more than you. It was just that whole thing. Like, I'm comfortable and we can travel and we can do whatever we want. I never wanted that. Right. And we would joke about, saying that when we have kids, you can be the stay-at-home dad while you build your business, and I can be the financial, stable person out of the family and just sort of survive on the one income. And that was very, I guess, ignorant of me, not knowing what it actually would feel like being a mum.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then having kids going, whoa, actually, this totally changes my thoughts on what that was. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And just the thought of like not understanding what that mum guilt would look like. And so that then completely changed. And like I said, that experience that we had with our first completely changed everything for me. I started to really dig deep about what it would be like to be an entrepreneur and why I felt there was a massive not being aligned with our values. And it was mainly the type of business that my husband was doing. And then I realized I had to really reflect on why it hasn't worked out for him.
Yeah, wow.
And how I could make that change. Like, okay, so if I was to join him and we were to do it together, because solopreneurs, as you would know, it's really hard, right? Like that one person doing it all is really hard. And I saw him struggle and work endlessly on these things. So when I joined him and having that corporate experience of knowing the strategic side of things, it's like looking further than, you're looking 6 months ahead and 12 months ahead. And what would that look like? For me, it was letting go of the money mindset. I didn't want to be in debt. I didn't want, and whenever he went into business, it was all him doing everything. And I realized that was part of me going, you can do the business side, but we don't financially, I don't want to put money into it. You just deal with it. You figure it out, you bring money in, but that wasn't ever going to work. So I had to reflect upon like, how can we strategize to make this a bigger thing? And it was investing in the business from the get-go, investing in people, investing in systems and investing in that time. And that we just completely changed the strategy. So for me, it was coming in and going, okay, let's sit down and let's talk about our values as a family. What do we want this to look like? And what do we need? What are our knowledge gaps? And we actually then went into a course. We spent $1,000 on a course to tell us about like how to build this business of freedom. And it was about outsourcing, building systems. So we took all of that and put that into, okay, now what do we do? What business could we create based off all these fundamentals that we learnt? And what are our values? And then aligning both values with the kind of structure that the business could look like. And then we came up with SaaS video marketing. So it wasn't the other way around.
Yes. Yeah. So it was like, okay, let's think about what we want our life to look at, what's important for us, but also what are the foundational and structural things. I really like the point where you said we realized that we had a knowledge gap and we went out there to look at how to fill that, because I recently had a conversation with Lola Berry on my podcast, and she talked about that. She said, the thing is, we've all got talent and we've all got passion, but to get to your goal, sometimes it's not necessarily that you haven't got the passion or the drive for it. You've just got a knowledge gap, and that's something that you just need to fill or to complete to be able to help you to get closer towards achieving that goal. So the fact that you guys weren't like, oh, well, we'll just do the business and see how we go. It was like, no, actually, let's take a step back. All right, so this is where we've got a knowledge gap and this is where we need to fill it so that therefore we can build a stable foundation within the business so that it's structurally, like, because you said you've witnessed your husband creating many businesses before and not really, I guess, having the momentum. Is that what you were seeing? Like no momentum or no real takeoff, or traction, I guess is the word there.
Whereas now it's like, all right, if we got to have traction because we're going to be doing this for ourselves as our business, like
Exactly.
we need to make sure there's something on the ground to give us movement, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think to your other point, I think you also asked, what kind of values that we carry when it came to that. And for us, going back to the values and what we were discovering is, I guess, the purpose. So when we were thinking about what is our purpose to drive our business forward? So what is our why? What drives us to wake up early in the morning? Sometimes we have to wake up at 5 a.m. What would drive us? What would our purpose be to handle 2 small kids? At that point, my youngest daughter was 3 months old. So I remember putting her to bed, and for us, what that looked like, it meant like having a structure within her sleep routine, even getting her to sleep, so that we could wake up and have that. But it came down to purpose. Why did I do all of that? And why, even when when it gets tough, when the girls aren't sleeping and, everything just sort of blows over, it's our purpose that keeps us going. So discovering our true inner why, which was a big thing. And then also understanding that you have to adapt and change and learn. So adapt to changes with like being able to pivot, understanding that we will have to pivot and nothing sort of remains the same. Like you said, and with the knowledge gaps, you kind of then know where to change. Like remaining the same won't work. You have to adapt. And then take control back of our time. So we choose the schedule that we work now. We work when the girls go to bed, and we have that time of control. When we're with the girls, we put work aside and we tell our team we can't, just taking that control back for us is very important. Then it's making an impact, right? We want to make an impact. And for us, we care about allowing other people to know that it is possible for them too. And that's where Legacy Building Mamas was born, because I was like, well, I want to make an impact. I want to actually help other people. And I know how hard it is. I've been there. I've got 2 small children. I've experienced the corporate kind of like the unfairness of, just the guilt that other mothers would face. I want to help them also understand that it is possible. It's not going to be overnight, but it's going to be worth it to take that control back. So these are the reasons why then Legacy Building Mama sort of came into it, and teaching others on how to do it as well.
Yeah, amazing. And I think it's such a valuable point here that you want to show other people how it is possible. And I know, and I'm sure many other entrepreneurial mums know out there, it's not freaking easy.
It's hard.
Oh my God. I mean, if it was easy, we'd all be doing it, right? But it does take a lot of strength, commitment. Coming back to the reason why, like you said, I think was a really good one. Like, why the hell am I staying up late past the hours of my daughter's bedtime to get this work done? Like, why am I getting up at 5 a.m. when I've had the worst night's sleep with my daughter because she's just woken up, she's had like a rough night herself, and I'm still getting up at 5 a.m. to work and commit to my business? Like, coming back to that, because it would be so easy in that moment just to be like, done. Not going any further. This is just too hard. Whereas if you're in a corporate job or any other job where you're being paid by someone, you wake up, you might have had a crappy night. You could call in sick, right? You could potentially be getting sick pay, or you could just stumble into work, do the best you could that day, know that you just have to play catch up tomorrow and somebody else is just going to take care of that. And that's how it is. But when you work for yourself, it's such a different emphasis of like, well, I had the crappiest night. All this stuff is blowing around my, in the background.
Exactly.
But I'm still going to show up and do this because there is a reason why I'm doing this. Yeah, I think that's a really strong one that we all need to. I often have a little reminder come up that says my why, like, because things change, right? You may change like you say, we have pivots within our business, we have pivots within our life. Why might slightly change or shift or develop or grow. But if you don't have that why, if you don't have that purpose, then what is really going on there?
And you're absolutely right. Like, I had one of those moments just the other day. We have found difficulties. We have a team in SaaS video marketing that does their responsibilities, and we've lost 2 of them at the same time, which meant then trying to fill that gap with a new team member and training them. We're back on deck doing the doing. And I looked at my husband, I'm like, we're at it again. We're doing the doing. It's like, then we have to train someone else. And then knowing that talent, and I worked in human resources, for us, it's very heavy on talent. We really need the right people. And so it's hard work because there's times and there's peaks and seasons where everyone knows what they're doing and it's great. We kind of step back. But then there's other times where we lose talent and we have to get back into it and then find the right talent and that project management side of it as well, which takes up a lot of the time. I looked at my husband, I'm like, working 9 to 5 is so much easier right now. Like, working in HR, which is pretty much the same thing. I might as well, I'm back at that corporate kind of way of thinking. But I said to him, no, but the thing that keeps us on track when we have those crappy days, and, even though I say, let's build a life of freedom and fulfillment. Let's be real. It takes time to get to that point, right? It takes time where we're there some days, but then other days we're not. And it can be like that until we actually 5 years down the track, I know we can get to a point where we have a full-fledged team and we have our vision and we have our trajectory. Like, I guess we know what we're getting ourselves into in the next 5 years. And it will take 5 years to fully get to that point. But in this moment, it's like I can either kill myself for the next 5 years, or I can kill myself for the next 40 years. Because you never, like, the way that we're going, retirement and all that sort of stuff, like, we'll be working till we're 80. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I see myself being like, the queen or, something like that, where you're in the job for life.
Yes. Yeah. Or we can build a business where we're going to kill ourselves for the next 5 years. But if we get it right and we know what we're doing in terms of, planning, I mean, we don't know what we're doing. Let's be real. We never know what we're doing. But as we go, if we figure it out, just one of those things, it's like one of those roadblocks. We're like, okay, this is hard. It would be easier to go to 9 to 5. However, we can fix this. And it's just momentarily, we'll fix it. We'll get the right talent. We'll get the right people. Once we do, we can then go back to doing what we were doing. Yeah. And in 5 years' time, we will have a business where we can then travel and live the life that we want to live. That's the dream.
Absolutely. And I think regardless to what kind of business we're creating, we have to experience those crappy moments. We have to, because that's part of the learning and the resilience we build as, mompreneurs, solopreneurs, as entrepreneurs, as people running your own show. Because if you don't experience them, then like, where's the growth? Where's the challenges? Where's the success? Where's the realization of maybe I should have done this way and that's what I will do next time. So you can improve your systems, your processes, your strategies, and create, like in your case, like, okay, we need to find a stronger team. We need to find the talent that's right for us. So in that, there's a whole lot of learning, like how to attract them, how to get them on board, how to get them doing the things within like shorter period of time, right? So we have to go through those icky moments. It's just like life. You have the icky moments in life too, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's the setbacks that actually then break you free to the next level. We've had a couple of setbacks where we're like, oh, this is just so hard. One in particular where we missed a deadline.
Oh, right.
A client's deadline. And we just felt like terrible people. How did we miss the deadline? And our client's going to hate us and all this sort of stuff. Like, all the thoughts came. He had 3 months subscription based. So we would lose those 3. We were thinking ahead. We were like, oh, we're going to lose 3 months of. And it really came down to our processes. How did it go wrong? Why didn't we meet his deadline? And we apologized to him, gave him the videos that he needed, and he was happy with them. He actually came back going, these are the best videos. Like,
wow.
the testimonial that he gave us on the videos was just amazing. And I guess it's our mind playing all these like self-doubt things of what's the client going to think, but they just want the video. Like, they just want your output. And when you do give them that output, it's almost like it was worth the wait. So that worth the wait moment was something that, but what did we learn from that? It's like, well, we need better systems so that doesn't happen again for our client. And that's what we've been building the past couple of weeks. I've been doing the systems and making sure that for the next set of videos, the client doesn't experience that, and I'm more hands-on with him. And that's what it comes down to. We've experienced setbacks and growth at the same time.
Oh, 100%. And I think it happens in all shades of business as well. Like, I mean, you guys are in video production. I'm in mindset and soundbars. Like, I can think of countless times when my booking system wasn't set up properly and people rocked up to a soundbath at the wrong day or the wrong time, just from one little thing that I forgot to tweak or set. Or there was a miscommunication within something I was communicating with my client about, and something, fluffed up, and it was just a big mistake. If I don't learn those things, if people don't even highlight those things to me, like the amount of times I've had clients say, oh, by the way, this says this in your booking system, but that's and I'm like, so sorry. I must have forgotten how to like switch, like, thank you so much for highlighting. Like I always say thank you because I don't know unless someone gives me feedback. I can check it as best as I can, but your eyes glaze over after a while. You see the same things, but when you get someone else say, "Oh, by the way, that's just not consistent," you're like, "Thank you for telling me because I wouldn't know this unless you told me, and now I can fix it and I can be more aware of it." And because I know that, I can actually help my clients who may be using a similar booking system be aware of these things because they don't know, but I do because I've run laps around this thing. So you never know until you're in it, and it can be like really big, like missing a client's deadline, which is something you never ever want to do because you would have felt pretty shitty in that moment.
Yes.
Like, oh my God, this is the worst.
Yeah, the world caved in.
Give us the worst performance review. Like, recommend us.
Oh, and we're going to lose the contract. Like, he's not going to want to pay us for the next 2 months. Right? And then there goes everything comes into
everything. But then in that moment, like, you rectify it and it's okay. And you go, all right, well, we've learned from that process. We wouldn't have known of this gap until we came across it. So I'm so glad that you're sharing the things that happen behind the scenes, because I think that often doesn't get shown enough that, in business, shit happens. We make mistakes.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing yours, because you made me feel better about that, because it's true. We don't talk about it enough.
Oh, I know this is going to be so terrible. But the amount of times I accidentally called the client the wrong name, or like when it came to doing massages in my first business, or I double booked someone. So, all those things that have just accidentally happened. We don't do this to be malicious or to cause trouble or to be a problem for someone. It just happens because we're not aware of that process or that thing yet, or we haven't learned from that moment. And I can think of like so many more horrible moments. I've just gone, why did you do that, Anna? Like,
and
why
it's
did
the tech as well, isn't it? The tech, like the technology that comes with having a business. Just, I seriously don't know what I would do without Adam. And that's why I'm so glad that for both of us, actually, we always say there's that compliment when it comes to having that person that you work with, because I'm not good with tech and he is. So every single time I get on a call, whatever, he sets me up. I have the worst tech brain when it comes to even just putting my headphones in and all that sort of stuff and having to change it. And for him, what he needs is mindset, right? I do a lot of mindset work and affirmations and, talking positively, even when it comes to that money mindset. Sometimes I'll hear him say, something about like, not having enough money for blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, wait, we've got to change that, because money comes to us. Like, and now it's just one of those things that, and ever since I started to say, we've got to change our money mindset of like, because that's something I've worked on, but even to try to get into the place where I'm at, I said, money comes. And since we've changed that, manifestation comes. And that's where it actually brings to when I was manifesting and doing a lot of that affirmation work, visualization. And that's something that I remind Adam to do a lot of. So building a business for us has been a bit of both. It's been that tech side of things, like getting that tech right and understanding that knowledge gap, right? Not understanding that part is hard as a solopreneur, as a mompreneur. It's like understanding those knowledge gaps when it comes to tech.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one thing I would probably say sometimes throws people when they think about running a business. We all think about the service or the product or the offer that we're giving because that's our talent, right? That's our passion. That's our gift. But what comes from behind that is a lot of knowing like how to do emailing or setting up a booking system or even just navigating social media. Like, God help us, that's just got so much more complicated than what it did a few years ago. Like even just mucking around with Canva. And if that's not your forte or your skill, that can seem so overwhelming, and which thankfully now there are so many more businesses available to support us in those kind of things, like help set up our Instagram account and help us navigate Canva and all those kind of things, which is amazing. But yeah, that in itself can be just so overwhelming that it's like, and then we come into that mindset of like, I'm just not very good with technology. And then we're constantly in that cycle. This is one of the mindset things that I often had a battle with, was like, I'm just not good with social media. Like, I'm just not good with it. And whatever that broad good meant was like that, it was just not my jam. But overall, I learned how to switch my mindset into a place of, well, actually, I can have fun with it and it gets to be fun and easy. And the more times I sort of found little moments where, that was fun, that was easy, it became so. But if we're initially having that mindset of like, it's overwhelming, it's too hard, I'm not very good at technology anyway, like I can't work my phone. all those kind of things. We're going to constantly be driving that information into us, and that's constantly being fed out within our mindset. So so you picking up on Adam and being like, well, hey, hun, let's shift our money mindset attitude. This will change how we receive business, how business flows to us, because at the end of the day, money is just the currency of exchange, but we're looking for business. We're looking for bookings, we're looking for clients, we're looking for jobs. So I like it how you've honed in on the mindset aspect within what you're doing to strengthen that, so that you have, like you said, more of those manifestations come through.
Yeah. And I've had to work hard on that, because for me, I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. That wasn't my lifelong dream like it was for Adam. So it comes more naturally to him. And for me, it was very difficult going from a corporate mindset where everything's structured, given to you when you're within these parameters. You have a team working alongside you, or you have just everything given to you, and you just have to work it out and be strategic or whatever it is. But when it comes to that entrepreneurship mindset, even just saying to myself, I've always said this to myself since I was young, I'm not creative. I'm just not creative. I'm just not creative. And I used to say that to Adam all the time, because Adam's like, when are you going to be an entrepreneur? I'm just not creative. I'm just not that. Like, it's something that I'm not. I'm just very structured, and I follow instructions. I follow guidelines. I follow policies. I'm good at that. And then going back to now where I'm at now, I actually have an affirmation every morning, and I say to myself, I am creative. And now I've got a Legacy Building Mamas where I share and I'm all about content. So
yeah, exactly. And I was just thinking, like, you've got this amazing podcast where you can actually freely be creative in that, right? Like, that's yours. You can be as creative as you wish within that. Like, that's pretty cool. Like, having a podcast is creative, in my opinion.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah. And creating what you do is creative, because this is your project, your baby, your business, in a sense that you're driving and being creative, creative. So
who would have thought? Who would have thought? And that it is our own self-thoughts and our own self-limitations that we've told, or someone may have said that to us when we were younger, right? As a child, I probably got told, I think my school always told me that, because I didn't like arts and crafts, and I wasn't really, creative. And because school said that if you don't do these subjects, then that must mean that you're not creative enough, or I didn't really go to those subjects at all. It didn't really drive me. So all of a sudden I created that thought in my head that I just wasn't creative, and that's just not what I went to. But creativity means so much more now. And
100%.
So different to what we were when we were younger.
Yeah, exactly. I think you've nailed it. Like, growing up as kids, you and I would have seen creativity as being arts and crafts, or graphic design, or sewing, or something, or like, arts within school or high school, like something within that where you're creating or building something. But now creativity is in so many different areas, and business all in itself is what we've been saying here together, is a creative place. It is a place where you can be creative and allow those elements of what creativity is your strength come forwards.
Absolutely.
Be your creative playground. I love it. I just want to ask a quick question here before I want to really dive into, in a moment, your mindset around that moment of like, holy guacamole, my corporate job is actually ending and I'm going to be able to go full time into my business. This is really happening. Like, that's my manifestation. Before we get there, I just want to quickly ask you, do you think, I think what's been a real advantage hearing about you and Adam creating SaaS video marketing is that together you've had like that corporate sort of foundation where you've had, like, you yourself know how to create structures and systems and policies. He's got like that business mindset where he's, perhaps like very good at talking to clients and generating leads and things like that, as well as doing the work that you guys are doing, right?
Yes.
Right. Do you think that's like key for anybody who is wanting to go into business for themselves? Like, did they need to have that as like a qualification, should we say? Or do you think that's just been an advantage, but you can learn these things as you go along?
That's a really good question. And my take on that is that everyone's going to be different. I would go with passion. What are you passionate about? What drives you? Find 3 things that, or even tune into what people are saying you're good at. What are people saying to you? What are you good at? And that then comes an idea of what your business could look like and what it could be. And then comes the values. Like, what are your values? Think about your values and how do they align, and how do your values sort of go in with passion, and then think about what business you could build. And it depends on the type of business. It could be an online service. I mean, a lot of people have knowledge and a lot of people have something about them that they can teach. And now we live in a world where we can get out to everyone and teach our knowledge, and someone's going to want to know more about that person. And I think that that is the beauty of it. And what comes with that, and if you do choose that way where you can teach others something that you're really passionate about and something that you're good at, think about then what would that look like? Social media is a big one, right? And if you're not good with social media, I would recommend getting someone who can help you with that, so that you can work on what's really going to drive that revenue, which will be selling to people, networking, getting out there, talking to people about what you're doing, what you offer, finding your target audience as well. So knowing where that niche lies, and you spending that energy on bringing those clients in, whatever it is, and thinking about all these other tasks that you'll need to do to create your business and what you can actually just give to someone else. And yes, you're going to have to invest a little bit, but you'd be surprised. It's not that expensive if you go onto platforms like Upwork and look up someone who can help you with social media and take off something that's going to maybe take off 4 hours of your time a week. But that's 4 hours that you get back out of that week. And you might spend $50 a week on this person to do stuff that you don't want to do, so that you can concentrate on your passion, what you're really, really passionate about, to get those and attract the right clients in. That would be my suggestion.
It's like, that's such a great suggestion, actually, and a really good reminder that we don't have to do it all ourselves, and that you can find someone to do that. And in a sense, like, the word that came up there is like, we're reinvesting our time. Like you said, you might save 4 hours of not having to do your social media posts, but you're reinvesting that time into your business. Yes, it costs you, but you're reinvesting that time into your business, where you get to channel in, devote it to like creating the product, selling it, offering it. Like, you know, if you're holding classes or talks about it, like, you need those 4 hours of preparation.
Yeah, focus on the money making.
Those 4 hours to do that thing, right?
Yeah.
That is so important. And I think that's a really great reminder there, that you don't necessarily have to have all those working parts already inbuilt. You can outsource them, but also you will learn, no doubt, as you go along. I mean, I did. Everything I've learned is from what I've learned. Everything I do actually is from what I've learned. I haven't been like, what's the word, like in the Matrix, you know, where Neo gets plugged in and he goes, I know jujitsu or whatever it is. It's like, it's not like we all get plugged in and suddenly we're all social media experts.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That would be cool. But yeah, we do learn, don't we? We learn as we go along.
But yeah, going back to your point, I think that's how Adam and I came to this business. It really came down to, what is he passionate about? What's he good at? What are people saying he's good at? He's the salesperson, right? So for us, it made sense to go with something that would be under Adam's niche. And he knew how to do that. He had done that before with one of his friends, actually. And his friend was like, wow, you've got an amazing gift for that. And he actually said, you should probably do this as a business. Like, this is your calling. And it was based on that someone told him, this is a video that I've never seen before. It's just his creative mind. He's creative, like he's creative, right? And so that for us was like, okay, well, you're good at that. People are saying you're good at, we could make that a business because you can sell it, you can talk to it. But to build a business, you also need processes, systems, and a team. So for us, building that freedom fulfilled business meant a team. I work in human resources, right? So human resource, I was in talent, and I know people, I know teams. So we put 2 and 2 together, and that's how we created this business. So, you know, not everyone can resonate with building a video marketing agency. However, for me, the advice that I would say to someone is follow your passion. Never look at what other people are doing and what other people go within yourself. Look at your purpose. What's your drive? What will get you out of bed? Because there's no point building a business out of chasing the money if that's not your purpose. Or your passion.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So let's go to that moment. What happened when you were like, okay, Adam, got something to tell you. My corporate job is ending. We're going full time. Like, what happened for you in that moment where you had like, whoa, I manifested that? Like, what was that experience like for you?
It was so overwhelming. It was surreal. It was like I was living a dream. I wasn't sure. I was like, please pinch me. But the way that it happened was that when I went back from maternity, which was in September last year, so almost a year ago.
Yeah, wow.
I went into it and I just felt a different vibe from I had to go into the office 2 days a week. I just felt straight away I just didn't fit in. I just didn't feel the energy. And so I did a lot of affirmations, manifestation, visualization. And I said to Adam, I'm going to be made redundant and laid off, right? For I think Universal is laid off. So I'm going to get laid off and I know it's going to happen. I just feel it. I just need to just be patient and wait. I'm just going to wait it out. Mind you, I had seen in my 17 years of corporate, I had seen restructures and people getting laid off all the time, every 2 years. In human resources, we experience that all the time. So it wasn't like it was an unbelievable thing. I just knew it was going to happen eventually in my company, and it always just happened, and I just felt this vibe. But I had never been given the opportunity to leave. And so that was the difference, right? I was like, I know there's something weird happening in the office. I know there's a restructure. I can feel it. However, one thing is that I'm not sure if they're going to just put me into another position, because when a restructure happens, you either get directed into another role, you get an opportunity to apply for other roles, which is exciting, right? Things change. And I'd always been excited about that. I'm like, oh, what's my next role going to be? And this is going to be fun. Yeah. Like, I always kind of felt like it was a fun thing. But this time I was like, I don't want any other opportunity. I want out. I'd just been there for 5 years. And so I just manifested it. I was just like visualizing, feeling it. I was like, they're going to give me that option. They're going to give me that option. And when it came down to it, it was April. So I had been doing this for 10 months. And it got to a point, where I was just getting to a point where I was burnt out. I had legacy building mamas, which I was showing up weekly. I had SaaS video marketing, the strategy of it. So Adam was running it, but I was still strategizing with him, talking about the clients, sitting out and having meetings with him and going, this is the direction, having weekly stuff for direction for SaaS video marketing while I was building my community. And my community started growing at that point, which meant a lot of engagement, a lot of messaging back and forth. So I was at my peak. I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, you're at like, I'm maxed out with my time.
I'm maxed out. I don't know what we're going to do. And the clients were growing. So at that point, I had manifested another thing, 5 clients by 8th of April. So I had manifested that as well, because I was like, by then 5 clients means that we could potentially, one of us could leave and do that. And 8th of April was a special date for me because 8th of April was my mum's passing away date. And it was the day I committed a year beforehand. I committed to doing everything it takes possibly to build this business and to make an impact. And it was sort of like my honor for my mum going, you know what, you've left me this legacy and I want to create more of a legacy. And so that's where I was like, by the 8th of April, we're going to have 5 clients, which means that one of us could sort of probably back away and think about whether or not we both need to be working in corporate. That happened. And literally, the 9th of April, I got told that I had, so the day after. Yeah, it was crazy. And the first thing I was nervous. I was like, do I have an option? Like, can I actually leave and opt to leave? And he's like, yep, you've got an option to leave. We just think that there might not be a role for you. And mind you, I think that there probably was a lot of more to that because I pushed back a lot. They wanted me in the office 3 days a week. They wanted me in the office and I pushed for 2 days a week, and they wanted me in the office at 8:30 and I was rocking up at 9:30. Like, I had this different attitude of not conforming to those rules and regulations like I used to be. Like I used to.
Yeah, so you're kind of like, I'm just going to give you a subtle hint of my overall
performance.
I'm kind of hoping to occur out of this situation. I'm still going to do my work, but I would just love it if you just offered me on a plate to get out.
And that's the thing, because there was so much pressure of also delivering. I was delivering. So at the end of the day, the hours, it didn't matter. I'm still getting my work done. And so when I would speak to my manager, I was like, I'm still delivering though. I'm still delivering the work. So the hours of work, really, I've got 2 kids and they come first. I don't want to choose work over my kids. So I think that pushback as well had something to do with that, going, yeah, you know, maybe you got to think about what's next for you and all that. So I had that bit of a talk, and I was like, and it was just a moment of, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing in terms of manifest. Like, I believe in energy. It's not the first time it's happened to me before. And that's the story I want to tell people, because it can happen if you believe it. And if you go within yourself, know exactly what you want out of life and manifest, but not just manifest, obviously work towards it, put some actions into place, all that sort of stuff. And so it was a long 2 months, mind you. So April till June. So I got told 9th of April, and it was the 5th of June. That was my last day. Those 2 months were hard, were very hard on me, because I knew where my heart was, but I still had to show up for them. I still had to show up for my kids. It was sickness time. So everyone was sick in the house. It was winter. So May and June saw all of us sick. And I was bedridden 3 times. Like, it was just a really difficult time, because so I don't think I really, what's the word? I didn't really take it all in for what it was. I was just surviving. I was literally surviving those 2 months. It was terrible. Just surviving every day, waking up every day, knowing that I had to show up there, show up for my family, be not the best health that I was. And I felt burnt out. I was like, I can't wait till that 5th of June comes so that I can drop one thing and then just focus. And I had no idea how much they were going to. That's another thing I manifested. I was like, okay, so if I did my financials, so we did our financials for the business, how much we would need, all that sort of stuff. Again, that money mindset came into it. So I was like, money will come, it'll happen. And when I got to that point, eventually 2 months, longest 2 months of my life, because it was such a whirlwind. And then that moment came that my letter came through, and I got double the amount I thought I would get. I cried. I was like, I can't believe, like, it was a moment of just gratitude, just so much gratitude, so much blessing. And I was just like, thank you. Like, you know, and I believe in angels, right? So my mum, I was like, thank you so much, Mum. Thank you so much, God. It was just a moment of like, and reliving that makes me so tingly inside, because it was just, I can't believe this is actually happening. Like, how could I script that even anymore? Like, it was just very well scripted, and it was just how much we needed to get to that next growth stage of the business. So essentially I had 6 months worth. 6 months worth of like pay, as if I'm still working corporate for 6 months. And I get to grow the business.
The winning. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Don't you love it when the universe is like, you know, on your side? I mean, the universe is always on our side, but like, you worked in alignment with the vision you had. You worked through the hard parts. Like, I feel like part of it was like, I want this and or better, which is one of our favorite manifestation things, isn't it? It's like, I want this and or better, right? And you got it. You got double the amount that you were expecting.
Yes.
And in that time leading up to it, like, you still said every day, like, I'm going to be made redundant. I'm going to get an awesome payout. You're visualizing what it is, and you're staying true to what you're wanting within your business and your life that you're creating with your husband, you know? And I think one thing in that moment, and I have to ask you this question, did it ever like flick through your mind and going, oh, this is actually happening? Am I going to take it? Is this the right thing to do? Or did you have that resounding sort of like deep sense of, no, this is right. I'm doing this. I know this is happening. This is exciting. And I'm taking it. Like, there was no question about it. Because I think sometimes we're in a manifestation or something that, you know, the universe, higher self, God, source, whoever, like whatever drops into us, we can often be like, whoa, actually, I'm not ready for that. Like, that's not going to happen. Like, we can actually blow it off because we're too afraid of taking that step, taking that leap, accepting that thing, because it's still the unknown afterwards, right? Like, yeah. Did you ever have that moment?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I had many of those moments, to be honest. It was almost like I was second guessing myself at times. It was, are we ready? I definitely asked that question to my husband. Are we sure we're ready? Should I just take another role? So that was the initial phases of when I got told. It was probably around 48 hours of, do we think we're ready for this? What about the kids? What about if it's not enough? What if it, you know, it just doesn't work out? There was so much self-doubt. And I'm not going to lie, there was definitely a lot of discussions, a lot of anxiety, a lot of heart palpitations, I'd say. Like I couldn't sleep, sleepless nights, just not knowing whether or not I was going to make the right decision. It wasn't easy. It wasn't an easy choice as much as I manifested it, like you said. As much as you can manifest something, it's still not as easy to back yourself up. It's still going to be a question of, am I enough? And again, that's where affirmations had to come in, meditation, having moments to myself, thinking deeply and backing myself up and going, I will never get this time again. And I feel burnt out. And I think it came down to the fact that my health is more than money, if that makes sense. And for me, it was, a few sleepless nights, a few questions, a few realizations. And then when I eventually made my mind up, I chose to remove myself from conversations had about what role are you going to choose? What are you going to get into the expression of interest? And one of my colleagues actually brought it up when I was asked. And I said, no, I've made up my mind. I did not even look at the expression of it. I didn't even want to be tempted to see what kind of roles there were. I didn't want to feel tempted about this role could actually look good and I would be great at that role and I'd love to be able to work with X, Y, and Z or whatever it is.
And it could just like tie us over a little bit longer, like it could give us that little bit more security we might need, all those kind of things.
Or I could get a promotion. Maybe if I go for a bigger role, I could get a promotion. I could get more money. It was all those thoughts. It was, and then so that's why I decided I'm not even going to look at the new structure. I'm not going to look at the org chart. I'm not going to look at anything. I removed myself from as many conversations. There was a lot of conversations had, with different teams. What does this role look like? Didn't get involved in any of it. And that was hard because I usually would be the one looking for my next best thing.
Yeah, thriving in it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And one of my colleagues mentioned, did you know that the expression of interest? I was like, you know what? I have not even looked at it. She's like, wow. She said to me, I admire just the way you back yourself up. I said, really? Like, yeah, because you've made up your mind and you're not even curious. I said, well, actually, I'm actually doing it because I don't want to be tempted, because I know that actually if I look at something, I might feel tempted and I might actually start asking myself and second guessing myself. And I just don't want to do that. So by me backing myself up is just not getting involved in any of it. And she quietly, I think, wanted also this, she's got 2 kids as well. She loves her family and she felt exactly how I felt. And she always said that I was very brave and courageous for doing what I was doing, that she would love to do it if she was brave enough. And I said, well, you are brave enough, and anyone can do it just depends on if you want it enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Like just allow yourself to do it. Like have a little moment to dream. What would it look like? What would it be? How would it feel?
Yeah.
And then be brave enough to start putting the wheels in motion and, some legs in the ground as to this structure and foundations that you're creating. I love the fact that you just had like complete blinkers on, because I'm sure that moment, I'm sure your pre-married self or even pre-kid self climbing the corporate ladder would have been like, yeah, let's see what expressions of interest there are. Let's see what this structure is going to be, because how am I going to get to the next stage? What's it's going to mean for us? What's my next holiday I can get to go on? What's the next thing I can have from this? Like, I'm sure in that moment, that past self of you was probably going, yeah, let's find out, because I can hear it within you like, oh yeah, that'd be so cool. What would I achieve next? But then, there's this present day you where it's like, well, I have a family and these are the reasons why I get out of bed, not my job. And I have a husband and we're building something together. Like, what if we went all in on that and that became the most amazing thing that happened in our life, and not me accepting another job from a corporate restructure?
Anna, you get me. Absolutely get me. That's exactly how I would put it. You probably articulated better than I did. Love it.
Yeah, wow. I can just imagine everything rolling through your mind in that moment, everything in the past version, present and future versions of yourself all congregating going, well, what are we going to do here?
Yeah, absolutely. It was exactly that. You get it.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I am really glad that you're here to share this story and this journey you've been on, and where you've we're in August as we're recording this. So this has only just happened this year. Am I correct?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So June.
Only like 2 months ago did you leave your job?
Yeah.
And now you're full-time in your own business. How does it feel right now? How does all of that feel?
I am loving it. I could never go back. And growing our business has been such a fulfilling thing. So, being actually hands on in the business, not just the strategy, not just the weekly meetings, the goals, what does the goals look like? And being like my husband's coach, now I'm actually in it, project managing the team, getting involved in client, and I'm learning so much. Like, I actually am learning so much more than I've ever learned in my corporate job. However, I'm very grateful for the fact that I've had the corporate life, and the skills that I've gained from my corporate life has been so useful in growing our business and putting structure and systems into place, and just seeing how far, even when I've stepped in full time, how far we've come to. We don't have a website. We've been actually servicing our business on a landing page. I'm not sure if I mentioned that to you, but yeah, and we haven't built our brand. So we've had 10 clients since January, and all has been from cold calling, showing what our videos look like, not even having a question of, what's your website? What's your Instagram account? We didn't even need any of that. It was just my husband getting on a call and just talking about how amazing videos would look. And our point of difference is actually the SEO analysis that we do. There's market analysis. So that's a big buzzword, right? When it comes to YouTube and growing channels and all that sort of stuff, building authority. We know all those buzzwords that get people going, I want to know more. Yeah. However, now that I'm in it full time, I'm now working on building that brand. What I've done with Legacy Building Mamas, building that brand for SaaS video marketing, making it to a point where we can then grow to the US. And so when we do our outreach online and LinkedIn, so I've been working on that strategy part out. So when we actually do an outreach on LinkedIn, people then will look us up and go, okay, that's what they do, but we can't expand to the US until we get our branding right. So much that's going to happen, I guess, in the next few months. It's very exciting.
That's so cool. And that's a really good thing that you've shared there, that look, at the end of the day, we still don't have our branding sorted. Because a lot of people do dive in first, like, oh, I've got to get my logo, my colors, my website, and which they are useful and helpful. But I mean, I can also agree with you guys. I built my first business, a massage therapy business, all on Facebook. Yeah, before I even had a website. It took me 2 years before I had a website. And then I only half built it, pushed it aside, and then went back to it 6 months later. So like, you don't need to have all those fancy things in place to get the ball rolling. And, depending on what you're doing, word of mouth can be so powerful all in itself, like a recommendation, a referral, a testimonial. But the fact that, you've built it all just off a landing page, knowing that if your target audience is in the US and eventually you do need branding and more things like that, that will come as that growth happens. But you've had 10 clients.
Yeah. Without a website. So it actually, within 8 months. So January, we started really, 8 months.
Sorry, 8 months.
Yes.
Well, that's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing the excitement with me.
I just honestly love how you manifested your, we wanted 5 clients by this date. That's just such a testament to having that faith and trust in what is coming for you, and that it is for you and it's for the highest good of all, and that everything is working out, because we can lose trust and we can lose faith when it comes to when we're building our manifestations or our dreams and our desires, because something happens or there's a hiccup or we just don't think it's working out for us because there's no evidence of it yet, So I love hearing people's personal experiences, because the more you hear it, the more you get that justification of like, well, if it's possible for Evelyn, it's possible for me too.
Absolutely. And that's the reason why it's so important to share stories and to share really like your journey. It's not an overnight success. And once you start believing it is, that's when people fall off, because you start to think about, well, why can't I be at that point where that person is at? And that's the reason why I wanted to share this journey from the very beginning. And eventually when we do make it, well, look, it hasn't been an overnight success. I started Legacy Building Mamas in September 2023. And so when I eventually get to a point where we've reached that financial freedom, which and we're putting it out there, December 2025 is when we're actually reaching that level of financial freedom where we can work from anywhere and all that sort of stuff, and have enough money to fund our creativity, which is essentially building more content, helping more people, getting to a point where our business can run for itself. We're putting it out there and understanding that it's not an overnight success. You don't just build something.
You're building your legacy. You're building your legacy.
Yeah. Exactly.
Before we wrap up our conversation, which I think we could chat like all day long about all things business, manifestation. I'd love to. I was like just thinking to myself, I'm going to bookmark it December 2025.
2025.
Have you back on in January 26 to talk all about what happened.
That would be amazing. Yes, let's do it. Yeah. I'll put it in my calendar. I'm going to be knocking on your door.
Yeah, I'll be like, so Evelyn, what happened? Tell me. All the highs, all the lows. Tell me. But what I would love for you to share just before we sign off on our amazing conversation, which I've loved today, is what is your hot tip? What is your hot tip for the mumpreneur who has just started working for herself? She's got some momentum. Things are building. It's really exciting. But there's that whole sense, and you and I both know it, of mum life and business life and how we bring them together. Some people say the balance, some people say the juggle, some people say the mix, whatever it is. Like, what is your hot tip in surviving?
Absolutely. There's a few things here. So firstly, I don't believe that there is a balance as such. I don't think that there'll be seasons, there'll be seasons where you will be a lot more about your business and you'll be less about, I guess, the family stuff. I've had moments in my life where seasons all about just building the business or, focusing on the business. But what are my trade-offs is that, for example, there's a lot of appointments that I probably should have made during some sort of months. I put that aside and then choose my season. So I have a bit of a structure when it comes to a family season, a business season, and when to go up and down and understanding what's coming. So when Adam and I do quarterly planning, we decide what kind of season we're in. So when it comes to quarterly planning, we plan our business, but we also plan what does our family kind of look like. Does that mean...
That's really good.
Does that mean that this quarter we focus on business? But what does that mean? It means that less maybe family social activities. So we're in that at the moment because it's winter. It's winter here, right, in Melbourne. We're not socializing as much. We're not bringing people over and hosting. We're not doing all that. We're having that quiet, just intimate family moment of just the girls, making sure obviously we're present for them. But then the next season will be what? October, November, December. Yeah. And that's summer. And that's our season of socializing, family, and, less business. And let's just make it more about the fun side because it's going to be, we're going to be outside. So finding that and also trade-offs. It's almost like, all right, when you're choosing even on a weekly basis, what is your trade-off? Like, what are you going to focus this week on? Is it going to be more around, I don't know, even in your business, right? It could be there's so many moving parts to your business. Even when it comes to business, you have those trade-offs. Sometimes I focus more on Legacy Building Mamas podcast episodes this week. And then the next week, I'll focus more around Legacy Building Mamas community and showing up to the community and scheduling. That's a big one. So schedule your time, plan your weeks ahead, know what that looks like, and scheduling. And also when you can is ask for help. Say yes to getting help when your week looks like you're not going to juggle it all. And who can you outsource X, Y, and Z to? Can you ask your husband? So if you know your week ahead and if you plan ahead, can you ask someone else to then, go do the grocery shop? Like, even if it's a grocery shop, who can you get to do that? Or does it mean that this week you're going to have to do an online shop because your business needs more of you? And then find those balances where you can, but it's never going to be balanced forever. You're going to just have to work your way around on a weekly basis, on a 3-month basis, and plan. That's what
plan.
Yeah. And say yes to help and outsource where you can.
Yeah, I think that's such good reminders and even great reminders because we can all very much feel like we want to do it all ourselves and come out like super mum. But in actual fact, a super mum is the one where she is her best self so that she can support her family and be present within a business and still like rock it. So
100%. Yes. And self-care is so important. And when you're planning your weekly, absolutely make sure you put in some you time.
Yeah, absolutely. So important.
Yeah.
Evelyn, I've loved our conversation today. I've already actually had, and I'm going to talk to you off air about another idea I've had that we'll talk about probably over the next little while.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely going to be having you back on the show. And no doubt in January 26th, where I said, tell me what happened. Tell me what manifested, what went down, what's built, what's come about.
I can't wait. Thank you, Anna.
How exciting.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been so lovely chatting to you. We can talk for hours. I really appreciate your time.
I know. I feel like this could be such a long conversation. So tell us, before we say goodbye, where can we find you? Is there anything that you have on offer for the listener today? Share away.
Yeah, definitely. So you can find me on Instagram, legacy_building_mamas. And you can also check out my website. My website is legacybuildingmamas.com. And on offer, what I would love to offer your lovely listeners, if you are thinking about starting your business, or if you're stuck in the weeds of doing it all and not knowing how to scale up your business, and if this sort of resonates with you on how to actually create a life of freedom and fulfillment and how to get your business to that level, I do have a framework that I've worked on, and I'd love to share with you my framework, which helps you discover your purpose, understand adaptability, take control of your time, and impact as well. What impact do you want to make? And how to enhance that freedom and flexibility by building an efficient team, or thinking about starting to put away some time somewhere else, which I've talked about in this episode. And how to encourage innovations. How do you encourage the creative mind to stay competitive and to change as the competition sort of like evolves? And how to choose as well your strategies that align with your personal goals and lifestyle. So I've created a little workbook that helps you figure that out, and whether or not you have to pivot or start your business.
Yeah, that sounds amazing and so useful, because I think when we have questions like that we can go through, gives us some time to reflect, question, really tune in. I love it. So dear listener, please download that, because I'm sure it's going to help you create some amazing magic within your business. Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Evelyn. I really enjoyed this, and I look forward to speaking to you in 2026.
Thank you, Anna. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to today's episode. Please rate and review this podcast so that it can continue to thrive and reach more listeners. I love to know who my listeners are, so please screenshot this episode and tag me on Instagram at Anna F. Hasty. And I look forward to connecting with you in the next episode.